Most of my childhood was set to the kind of music that made us feel powerful. It was a time at those times where Black people all around the world were walking tall in their Blackness and proud of who we were and what we had accomplished at that point. And because I was Black, I was part of that universal pride and, feeling along, included in that Black unity. Right? Shouldn't I be? Right? Yeah? Or maybe it was just that my mom was trying to help develop my self-identity because as a light-skinned Black woman, she knew what I would be in for in this world. So I am a Canadian, light-skinned Black woman of Jamaican descent. And my parents are both light-skinned Black people, and my grandparents are light-skinned Black people, and as are their parents. Now, of course, if you go back far enough, there's some Cuban in there, absolutely, and of course, my family, unfortunately, does not escape the history of slave ownership, as do most Black Canadian Americans today. But one thing I can say was our Blackness was solid in our family. There was no question. There was no question. And as a Black woman, a light-skinned Black woman in Canada, well, I can tell you it's been interesting. It's betwixt and between, as they would say. Sometimes being a little too Black, and sometimes being not nearly Black enough. One of my earliest memories in school was people constantly saying to me, "Oh no, for sure, you're mixed, right? Which one of your parents is white?" Really? Like it's a given? There's a certain shade you get to where you have to be mixed with something else? Okay. All right. Early through my education, I had teachers who were so convinced that I was mixed, or what they call biracial, that it created a crisis of identity for me. You see, because my father, early in my development, decided he wasn't quite ready for all of the looming responsibility that came with a family, and because he knew that my amazing mother was as strong and resilient as she is beautiful, he simply walked away. That betrayal was so deeply painful to my mother that she couldn't even speak about it or about him for years. Which kind of left me as a child in a bit of a sticky situation because I never wanted to ask the questions that I knew would make her cry. So I stayed uninformed. But what I did do is I just made up my own history. I made up my own lineage. And it worked for a while. I went about just doing what I needed to do just to be able to get through those school questionnaires leading up to Father's Day. So what does your dad do for a living? Oh, okay. What's your dad's favorite sport? And of course, my favorite always. Do you look more like your dad or your mom? Really? I have no idea. I have no idea. So I can say that as I move through school, okay, so I'm going to share a secret with you. It's embarrassing, but hopefully it'll stay in this room. When I say I made up my history, my lineage, I was serious. I literally made up my dad. I made up a father, this fictional character who I thought, would fit the bill. And because I didn't have the pieces of information that I needed, this is what I pulled together. So my father was, of course, devilishly handsome. Duh. And he happened to be a white police officer who was tragically taken down in a heroic act of duty. Good? Good? Come on! I'm telling you, what that story did is it covered all the angles. Covered all the angles. So it addressed the whole mixed thing. Are you mixed? Okay, we'll go with that, right? Easier to say that. It also explained why he's not around. And then lastly, it was so tragic that it actually would put an end to any other questions anyone thought they should ask. Thank you. And so, while putting together the pieces of what I wanted or believed or thought my life should be, and covering up, that worked for a little while. But what I didn't realize was I was actually completely unaware of my sense of self, who I was, where I actually came from, who are my people, what is my history. And so I became a chameleon. And I just started to be whatever everyone around me wanted to be, which can be dangerous for a young girl with daddy issues. In high school, I decided I've got to lay some groundwork here, so I became ultra Jamaican. Ultra, I mean, too Jamaican. I mean, like when you watch TV and you see those American actors trying to do the Jamaican, that was me. Way over top. Because I was trying to force what I wasn't really sure about. I knew my family was Jamaican, but there were so many questions I just wasn't sure of who I was. It left me constantly feeling like I was never really black enough. My white friends, oh my goodness, love them dearly. But they were hesitant to invite me to their birthday parties if it was being held at home. My black friends, they called me white. Hey, white girl, what's going on, white girl? And I'll be honest, some of them still do today. It's fine, it's whatever. It's good, it's good. I'm used to it. But I always felt in the middle of the void. Not being enough for one group, being way too much for another group, and always searching for the answer. Today, well, when I can tell you honestly, the 90s, whew, yes, the 90s were my time. The 90s were light skin was in. Light skin was in thanks to people with long hair and fair skin like Christopher Williams, Albie Shore, the butterfly herself, Miss Mariah Carey. Light skin was in. It was a great time to be a brownie in the 90s. Absolutely. But then came the 2000s, and the pendulum swung the other way. Thanks to the loveliness such as D'Angelo, and, Tyrese, Lauryn Hill, so many others, Toni Braxton, absolutely. Now, I can tell you, for those who don't know, colorism is still alive and well in the black community today. Absolutely. And the black community has long had a love-hate relationship with itself. And there are lots and lots of reasons as to why, and if I get into that, we really could be here all night. So I digress. But what I will say to you is, after a lot of searching, finally getting to know my father, who, by the way, is black and is alive. Yeah, good stuff. And doing some digging into my own family history. And I can stand here and say, I've traced the lineage back to a very powerful tribe in Ethiopia. Feeling good about that? Absolutely. But the reality is, with all of those things, I have finally come to a place where I simply accept who I am. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what anyone else is guessing. I know who I am. And that's all I need to know. And so today, I can absolutely, boldly, and proudly say I am black and I'm beautiful. Yeah.